Hi, I'm Jeff Hajek, the owner and founder of Valaction. This video is part of my lean training system. It was originally released as a DVD a long time ago, but times have changed and the look of some of these LTS videos is now a bit dated. The content is still spot on though, so rather than just discontinue the line, I am posting the majority of each of the 36 videos here, with the remainder available at Valaction Videos. That's our video service where you can download a wealth of supporting content and watch subscriber-only videos. I recommend subscribing and hitting the notification button if you want to make sure you don't miss any new content. I would also really appreciate if you would hit the like button if this video is helpful and you want to see more content similar to it. The like button helps us get found on YouTube, but it also lets us figure out where you want us to put our future effort. Now enjoy the free version of this video. Hello, my name is Jeff Hajek. I am the owner and founder of Valaction Continuous Improvement. I'd like to welcome you to this presentation on how to deal with working in a metrics-driven management system. Whenever you spend time learning, make sure you are clear on what you should get in return for the time you put in. The first thing you should get out of this presentation is an understanding that there are different types of metrics. The most important category for frontline employees is process metrics. The second big takeaway is a clear understanding about why metrics are important when your company is on a lean journey. And finally, we want you to finish this training with a better understanding of what it is going to be like living with lots of measurements. More importantly, we want you to feel better about this focus on numbers. Now, as we get started talking about metrics, there is a pretty significant elephant in the room. If you are like most people, you probably hate being measured. It is the Big Brother syndrome. They wonder what will happen to them if the numbers don't come out right. They are concerned that the numbers will come back later to haunt them. The truth is that this is less about being measured than it is about trust. And that is because we are measured our whole lives, and in many ways we embrace it. Report cards, for example, while not actually enjoyed by most, are accepted. We see the logic in checking whether a student met the standards, and we understand that grades are important indicators of future success for students wanting to go into college. We also play games with metrics. Fantasy sports is a huge industry that measures the results of professional athletes. And the appetite for stats is growing. Look at any sports website, and there are constantly new ways of measuring performance. And measurements get started right in the first moments of life. An APGAR score is a measurement that shows the health of an infant over his or her first moments of life. We then proceed to monitor height and weight over the next several years to make sure the child is developing properly. And this final one, while we probably don't like our finances being measured, we understand that banks need a way to determine if we are likely to pay back money that we borrow. We see the utility in this measurement. So the premise that we just hate being measured is somewhat flawed. We just hate being measured in the wrong ways. Another problem with metrics at work is that we are used to results metrics. These focus on the outcome. At work, we have a lot more measurement of processes. These are done much earlier in the activity, while the work is being done. That can often make us feel like we are being micromanaged. But measuring early in the process, monitoring process metrics, is great for continuous improvement. So what are process metrics? Let's say you have a process with 3 steps in it, and when combined properly, they give you a desired result. What really matters is the outcome. So when we want to improve, the goal is to get better results. But the results are measured too late. All the work is already done. If we want to get better, we need to change the steps of our process. So we have to measure earlier when there is still time to do something about the outcome. I hope you are getting something valuable out of this video. If you want to get more out of this program, we recommend watching it on Valaction Videos. You'll be able to watch the entire video, mostly ad-free, and view subscriber-only programs. You'll also have access to a load of continuous improvement downloads. Let's use some personal metrics to clarify the difference. Remember the report card? Grades are results metrics. They tell the outcome of the academic work of a semester. But the problem is that the grades are after the fact. They are tallied after the work has already been done and it is too late to adjust to get a better outcome. But if you can find activities that are correlated to grades, then you can measure them in time to make adjustments. For example, time spent studying might track in lockstep to grades. You could track nightly or weekly hours spent studying, and then do something about it before it is too late. APGAR scores, again, are for doctors to take emergency action if there's a problem, but the better way is to make sure the scores are high in the first place. There might be a correlation to prenatal vitamins or some other action a pregnant woman can take that leads to better infant health. Standing on a scale tells you where you are now. It tells you how you did. If you want to make the scale move, though, you've got to change daily behaviors. You can do that by tracking calories consumed and calories expended. Similarly, if you want to buy a house, you've got to get your credit score up. There are activities you can take to do that. The bottom line, though, is that how effective metrics are for you depends on your attitude towards them. Most people either have a positive or negative bias toward metrics at work. If you see a purpose for them, you will likely have a positive view. If not, you'll think they're a waste of time. Whether you see a purpose or not is, in large part, based on your history at work. If you've seen metrics used effectively in the past and they have made your job easier, you're more likely to view them positively. There is also something of the with them, or what's in it for me effect going on here. The more a person sees personal benefit from a metric, the more likely they are to embrace it. Often this benefit is aligned with the company. Quality, for example, helps both the company and the employee. Nobody wants to have to redo work or to face coworkers over and over again because work they are responsible for slipped through. If they see metrics making their jobs easier, team members will be less resistant. And this final point of view is probably the most important. Trust is critical to continuous improvement. Asking people to highlight problems makes them feel exposed and at risk. They have to know that the metrics are not directed at people and are not being used as a big gotcha. If they think the boss is on their side, then metrics will be less of an issue. Let's go back to a comparison between process metrics and results metrics, but we'll look at some actual work metrics this time. Customer satisfaction, regardless of how it is measured, is a common metric. But it is a results metric. All the work to satisfy the customer has already been done. So what work leads to satisfied customers? One possible process is phone support. How long a customer waits on hold plays a role in satisfaction. The good thing about real-time or even near real-time tracking of this metric is that when a number climbs, you can do something about it before there are too many dissatisfied customers. Similarly, warranty claims is a lagging indicator of quality. Rolled through yield tells you right away if there's a quality problem developing on an assembly line, before it affects the customer. Likewise, the scrap rate of a process might be another indicator of poor future quality. On-time delivery also has a set of associated process metrics in it. The backlog of orders, the number of stockouts, or even something seemingly unconnected like absences might track to on-time delivery. And, not to beat a dead horse, nearly every results metric you can think of will have several process metrics that feed into it. Note the subtle difference in this process metric, though. It is focused on the process of converting to a Kanban system rather than how well the Kanban is working. Once you are fully switched over, you might use stockouts or the amount of safety stock or some other metric to see how well your inventory system is working in real time. As part of the Lean training system this video comes from, we offer a variety of Lean Lego training packages. These include our Lean Lego flow simulation, mistake proofing or poka-yoke Lean Lego exercise, and our visual controls and 5S Lean Lego exercise. We've also got an office flow simulation for those not implementing continuous improvement on the shop floor. Click the links in the description below or click on cards that pop up on this video to learn more. We'll also add links at the end. One question that is not asked often enough is how long a measure should be used. Don't get into the mindset that all metrics should be left in place forever. Of course, there are some metrics that should be permanent. These tend to be the ones that track to core operations of a company or that monitor processes with high risk. That risk could either be related to a high likelihood of a failure or if a failure has a significant impact. There are a handful of metrics that are in widespread use as well. On-time delivery, productivity, and quality, specifically defect rate, come to mind. These are useful as permanent metrics because they help highlight improvement opportunities. Temporary metrics fall into a handful of buckets. The first is those that are related to annual improvement targets. You will see metrics set up specifically in support of a KPI or key performance indicator or policy deployment goals. Sometimes, there is an ad hoc metric set up related to a specific opportunity. And finally, you may see a temporary metric set up as a stopgap against a problem. You may, for example, see additional quality metrics established on an assembly line if quality slips to the point where customers start complaining. Let's talk now about how to turn the concept of metrics into something you can use in the workplace. You may see metrics posted on a production board or individually in a work area, but it is also a good idea to track them in a single at-a-glance location. One format for doing so is the KPI bowler or Key Performance Indicator bowler. The term bowler comes from the similarity in its appearance to that of a bowling scorecard. One of the reasons we recommend using a bowler is that it provides consistency throughout the company. If you move from one work area to another, you can immediately recognize what your new team's goals are and how it is doing. This chart is used to set monthly targets on the top half of each row and then track the actual results for each month throughout the course of the year. One important point is that improvement goals should not be uniform throughout the year. If the expectation is to end the year better than you started, there should be an action plan to go with each goal. That plan will be unlikely to deliver 1/12 of the annual gain each month. The target should match what the plan is expected to deliver. Another point is that misses should be highlighted. I like to see the bottom box shown in red if it is behind by more than 5% or if it misses 2 months in a row. In case you have trouble seeing the categories, the KPI bowler should be broken down by QDCSM or Quality Delivery Cost Safety Morale. You will likely hear QDC or QCD frequently in the continuous improvement community. Like most things, having a designated owner increases the chance of success. The person needs your support in hitting their targets. Ownership does not mean that the person does all the work. It means he or she is responsible for making sure that someone gets it done. One final point. Units matter. Make sure you understand how the metric is being measured. It can be confusing to be thinking in feet when the rest of the team is thinking in meters. Metrics are not an output. They are the means to an end, and that end is improvement. Let's look at how metrics fit into the improvement cycle. Obviously, you want to measure something. Having those facts and data lets you identify when you have a problem or an opportunity. That information enables you to make improvements. Once you make a change, you have to make sure the new process is actually better than the old way. And finally, you need to lock in those gains by standardizing the new process. If you are familiar with Lean or any other form of continuous improvement, you'll probably notice how closely this aligns with the PDCA or Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle. With metrics, you want to improve, but improvement takes up resources. You have to prioritize. That means understanding the difference between maximizing or minimizing a metric and setting a threshold for a metric. Let's look at quality. Getting perfect quality is a good long-term goal, but it can take tremendous effort to turn the dial on quality, especially as it approaches zero defects. I recommend setting an aggressive threshold on quality and then focus on hitting that first. Don't dive into delivery or cost savings until you hit this quality target. One of the reasons I like to focus on quality first is that it nearly always improves cost and delivery as well. When you hit the quality target, turn your attention to delivery. While quality, over time, generally has no limit, the same is not necessarily true for delivery. There's a point where faster delivery will not necessarily help sales. Same-day delivery on wedding dresses, for example, might be a wasted effort. It is simply not that kind of spur-of-the-moment purchase. Business-to-business items that are stocked by a store, likewise, may not see increased sales if the lead time drops below the time limits of the replenishment system, or beyond the cost effectiveness of shipping options. Cost, though, unlike quality and delivery, is something that should be maximized. Once you hit the quality and delivery thresholds, again set with an eye to their impact on sales, you should mercilessly attack your cost metrics with all the resources you have left over from your quality and delivery efforts. Keep in mind that these leftovers are identified in the planning phase at the beginning of the year. It is not that you're working on cost after delivery and quality. It is that you allocate resources after those other two categories have received appropriate attention. Note that quality and delivery improvements can sometimes be preventative or might be set up in response to the market. You may devote considerable resources just to maintain the status quo. Costs, on the other hand, is all yours. Anything you save impacts the bottom line. Safety should be maximized. There's never good reason to put people at risk for financial gain. Morale, though, should have a threshold. This one is tricky, though, as there are two layers to it. The first is that there is a moral obligation to be a good human being. That aside, though, it is good for business to have a workforce with good morale. It improves your other metrics. There is a point of diminishing returns, though. Too much morale is costly. There is the point where excessively generous benefits can push a company into the red. Most companies, though, underestimate the impact good morale can have on the bottom line. Get more out of our Lean Training System videos with our Continuous Improvement Companion. It's closing in on 1,000 pages of great content. It is currently available as a download with a subscription to Vlaction Videos and as a license through our store. You can also get a free version of it by signing up for our newsletter. Click the links in the description below or click on the cards that pop up on this video to learn more. We'll also add links at the end. If metrics were easy, there would be no need for this presentation you are watching. Let's look at the things that make metrics hard to do. The first is that there can be too many metrics. If people feel over-measured, then metrics become burdensome. If metrics become overwhelming, people get a bad attitude about them and they hinder rather than help. Metrics should focus on processes. If they are used as a report card for individuals, they are far less effective. Nobody wants to commit to something that puts themselves at risk. This is tricky for those of you working in a metrics-driven company that does metrics poorly. You'll have to toe the line between influencing your boss to make better use of metrics and keeping yourself out of trouble. Candidly, though, if you are worried about how your boss is going to use metrics against you, you are probably not in the best working environment and should assess your options. Another barrier is that metrics die on the vine. They might highlight a great opportunity, and then nothing is done about it. It is disheartening to employees, and it erodes a leader's credibility as far as continuous improvement goes. This is the case where you, as a frontline employee, does have an opportunity. Leaders don't neglect opportunities because they don't want to do anything about them. They neglect them because they are too busy or don't have the proper resources. If you offer solutions to the problem, or you volunteer to work on it, you've not only got a good chance of getting the problem addressed, but you also may build yourself up as a proactive, problem-solving team member. Poor communication is another barrier. Traditionally, managers don't tend to give a lot of information to team members. They generally give the what, but not the why regarding decisions. If they want to engage frontline employees, they need to treat them in a way that encourages engagement. They need to trust them with the rationale behind their decisions. Managers also need to take feedback from employees and then give a definitive disposition on it. They can't just be a black hole of information. If a manager does not use an idea, they owe it to the employee to explain why, or the idea well will dry up. Another issue is that managers want to collect data for metrics, but don't spend the time standardizing the collection process. What happens is that each team member collects data a bit differently, and the results get thrown way out of whack. Bad data means bad decisions. Good data requires all people collecting it to do it exactly the same way. Knowing that there are some significant barriers to metrics, and that people tend to be resistant to them, how do we go about making people okay with being in a metrics-rich environment? Well, first of all, as mentioned earlier, measure processes, not people. Sometimes, individual data does need to be collected and consolidated to form the team metric, but the individual data should not be posted. It can be valuable to find problems, specifically if one person is not using the same process as the rest of the team, but leaders should be extremely careful about tying process metrics to evaluations. Team members should also be included in decisions about metrics. That doesn't mean every team member gets a say, but they should have a voice in the discussion. Team members should take this responsibility and opportunity seriously. Far too often, a team is asked for volunteers and nobody steps up, or if they do, they sit quietly in the room only to complain later. This is especially true when talking about how to go about collecting the data. That tends to have a big impact on team members because it can mean more work. Again, take advantage of any chance you have to dictate your working conditions. Any data that is collected should be shared. Maybe not in its entirety, but at least a summary of the results. It is disheartening to have to work harder to collect data, but then never getting to see the results of that effort. Another way people come to see the benefits of metrics is when they can connect the data collection effort to a specific improvement. This can be done relatively easily with announcements in morning stand-up meetings or by posting a project synopsis at the KPI board or at the entry to the work area. The point is that team members need to seek out disclosure and leaders need to provide it. Managers need to remember that data collection is not free. It is a step in a process. Treat it as such. Add the data collection steps to your standard work so the time factors into the staffing equation. If data collection is staffed like a secondary activity, it will be treated like a secondary activity. Team members should help their managers make a better staffing decision by updating process documentation to reflect the time that the data collection efforts take. If data collection does not feel like a big burden, it is easier to tolerate. What it comes down to is that whenever something new is introduced to the workplace, it takes some getting used to. Sometimes, these changes end up being a flavor of the month thing, or they might not pan out at all. But history shows that using metrics to manage work operations is not only a good use of time, but is also essential to becoming a great company. This video comes from Velaction's Lean Training System, which takes a module-based approach to learning about continuous improvement. Modules include a PowerPoint presentation and student guides for every video, plus there are many exercises and quizzes as well. There's also a whole host of supporting content in the form of terms in our Continuous Improvement Companion and downloadable articles. Our modules are currently available in our store and as downloads at Velaction Videos. Click the links in the description below or click on the cards that pop up on this video to learn more. We'll also add links at the end. A little while back, I talked about the barriers to metrics from a corporate standpoint. Now, I'm going to cover those challenges from a personal point of view. As I mentioned, metrics can feel hard to you if they're presented, even unintentionally, as extra work. There is only so much time in a shift. If it is already filled, when you are asked to record information, it can add pressure to your job. The key is to make sure that the data collection effort shows up in work instructions, complete with the time it takes. Most managers, if they are any good, will understand the need to treat data collection for metrics as part of a team member's job. The next personal issue people have with metrics is that it makes them insecure. Again, this is compounded by a lack of trust. I have to admit, I have some mixed feelings on this. While most people dislike being measured, those with the biggest problem with it are often those that know they are not top performers. Or they know that they are skating by. For those that are trying but not succeeding, there is some concern that the shortcomings will be highlighted. Fortunately, metrics can help those that do have trouble keeping up. It brings attention which, again, if a manager is worth his or her salt, can identify things like training problems, poor equipment, and the like. Those with the biggest worry about data being used against them are, most often, those that should worry. That's not to say that metrics should be used as an evaluation tool, but it will force a change in the way intentionally underperforming people have to do their job. It gets harder to hide and let your teammates pick up the slack. For those that are not slacking, though, the scrutiny can be welcome. High-performing team members, especially those in small groups, tend to appreciate when their coworkers who make more work for them are identified. They don't want to have to tattle on their coworkers, but they don't want to do their work for them either. Metrics solve this dilemma for them. Some people have been there, done that so many times with improvement efforts that they just see metrics as another thing that too will pass. For those of you who believe this, I just say give the measurements a chance. If they are done right, you will see improvement. Your challenge is to help your boss do metrics the right way. Ask follow-up questions about the data you collected. Ask to see it. Thanks for watching this extended free version of our Lean Training System module video. If you want to watch the whole video, check it out at Valaction Videos. If you want to make sure you don't miss the next LTS video that we post, please be sure to subscribe down below. We also always appreciate likes as it helps us get viewed more and makes us keep adding additional content. Thanks for watching, and best wishes on your continuous improvement journey.